summation of what theological liberalism truly is. Quote, a God without wrath brought men without sin into a kingdom without judgment through the ministrations of a Christ without a cross. And
man, get the fuck out of here, dude. You sound like a bitch, Wes Huff. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Ask the Next Question. This is episode 13.
13.
I'm fired up. We're back in the studio.
Back. Man, it was weird doing it in my apartment, but I like this space. It's comfortable.
It was crazy because we started recording the last episode, and I don't know if you guys can hear this or not, but Josh's next door neighbors,
oh my god,
just started having like a Hamilton sing-along
session,
and they're just busting it out.
I think they stopped like right before we started recording, but we were doing sound check and just getting ready. They were singing super loud. So
I was like, well, it's going to be some additional, we'll have to rock with it.
I got the dog barking a little bit, but that's okay.
I was trying to come up with ways that we could stop them. And I'm going to brag on my friend right now. One of my close friends from college, I actually lived in the dorms with for several years, is playing King George in Hamilton right now. We're going to see him on Wednesday here in Chicago. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll get Matt to send a video, and I can go over and be like, hey, look, King George is asking you to shut the fuck up. But
yeah, man, how's your week been so far?
I mean, it's been a good week. You know, like I say every week, when you got two kids and my dad's staying with us right now in our two-bedroom apartment. It's a lot going on. I'm trying to make content. I love my dad. He's such a good sport because my dad is a conservative, Pentecostal pastor. He's staying with me. He's sitting over there in the living room watching me record all my leftist crazy takes for Instagram.
You're planting seeds, as we used to say.
Yeah, and he's just, he was talking to one of his cousins on the phone the other day. I could overhear in the room, and he's like, "Yeah, Colton is doing this thing on Instagram and on TikTok." And I heard him be quiet for a second. He goes, yeah, well, our kids grow up, and we got to give them the space to be. I was like, oh dang, the family's talking about.
Yeah, that's funny.
How about you? What you been doing this week?
Man, working. Try to get out a little bit and enjoy the nice weather we had on, what was it, Saturday? Yeah. Friday, Saturday's weekend. It was a little bit nice. So
they tricked us.
Yeah, and then I went out. So Monday was actually super nice. Yeah. And I was like, man, I need to go out and run, but I was too busy after work to go outside. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go out tomorrow. And I went out and it was so cold yesterday. It started, I got back in the house right before it started hailing. Yeah,
it started, that went 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah, I literally 2 minutes before I got inside, it started hailing.
Yeah, I put up a picture because within no time at all, 1 minute, the ground, it looked like it had just snowed for hours.
Yeah, and I was looking at my balcony. I'm like, man, it sounds like the rain's kind of heavy, and I see ice picking up on the balcony. I'm like, oh shit, I've never seen that here yet.
My kids were terrified. My 4-year-old was like, is our balcony gonna fall off? I was like, nah, we're good.
Yeah, that's dope, man. But I've been watching more basketball in person than I have on the TV, but now NFL is completely over, football's over. So I'm trying to get back into watching basketball on TV I usually do.
Yeah, you've been going to real NBA games nonstop. I don't know where this NBA budget is coming from.
It definitely ain't coming from the podcast yet. But yeah, so I was watching the Spurs versus the Celtics, right? And that's was one of the marquee matchups of the night. When Wembanyama dropped 39. Jason Tatum came back from his injury. And then I go on Twitter and I see Bam Adebayo had 30 points in the first quarter.
That's
I'm like,
crazy.
Bam Adebayo, this dude usually don't get 30 in a game.
Right.
So I'm like, I didn't really think nothing of it. But then my friend texted me and said he's going to break Kobe's record. I'm like, yeah, okay. I pull up the score. He's got 60.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, okay, I got lead pass. Let me turn it on. So I turned it on. There's probably 9 or 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Yeah. He's going from 60, 65. He gets to 70. I'm like, bro, is he really about to break my GOAT, Kobe Bryant's record for 81 points? And he did it. He got 83. Now,
because they score 150 points.
They score 150 points. They're playing the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
Probably with the worst defense in the past 10 years. But I was watching the end of the game and I was like, something about this just don't feel right. Because starting within 5 minutes, they're up by 30 points, right?
Yeah.
They're giving him the ball every time. The Wizards are double, triple teaming him. They can't help but foul him.
Yeah.
Then as the clock winds down, he's getting super close to Kobe's 81. They're doing shit that I've never seen before. Now, mind you, the Heat are up by 30, so keep that in mind. They are fouling the Wizards on purpose to send them to the free throw line so they can keep the game going long enough for him to get his 80 points. They foul him. Then they go to the Wizards foul somebody else.
Yeah.
Bam, the guy shoots the free throw. He misses it on purpose so Bam Adebayo can get the rebound. The Wizards start fouling other people. It was just a fucking mess. But he ended up getting his 83 points. But it felt a little bit unethical to me. I don't know. I don't know how familiar you are with ethical hoops.
I mean, I'm a little bit familiar.
Okay.
In college, our floor, in the Christian school I went to, you had to live in the dorms all 4 years. So you built like a strong camaraderie. We had very serious intramural sports leagues.
Okay.
It was like very serious.
Okay.
And we built a team though called the MOG Fowlers. Our floor was called Men of God, so we call ourselves MOG. So we were the MOG Fowlers, and our only goal, like people would get so pissed off because our goal was not to win the game. The way we viewed it as winning is if we could get every player to foul out of the game.
That's the definition of unethical hoops.
And we would
I would have hated y'all.
Bro, you really would have, because people would get so mad. And the crazy thing was, a lot of the people that on our team could actually hoop. Like,
so what are y'all doing?
Pretty decent. Just having fun.
Oh my God.
And a lot of them were on other teams too.
Okay.
Yeah, there were other teams that they played seriously. So people would just like get mad playing us, and it was a little bit of fun. But yeah, it sounds like it was kind of a setup. It sounds like they were playing like how I play with my 4-year-old when
that's the way
I
it
let
looks.
him run 20
They're
points up
triple
on
teaming him, but they're like, I don't care what is going on. We're giving Bam Adebayo the ball. He's running like a football player through the lane, trying to get hacked. It was just nasty. And so, I'm a Kobe guy, right?
Yeah.
If y'all don't know, Kobe is like my GOAT, notwithstanding his off the court issues that he had.
Yeah.
Right. But I was too young. I feel like if that happened when I was an adult, maybe I feel a little bit different. But when you're young, somebody's your idol, it's kind of, you just don't fully comprehend the negative sides of them. But so Kobe had 81, right? I'm thinking back to his 81 points. They're playing the Toronto Raptors, another team that's not good, but they're down by 15. They're down by 20 at halftime.
They needed him to come through.
They needed him to shoot all those shots for them to win the game. And so to compare what Bam Adebayo did to Kobe's 81, it felt like
it's probably closer to what the Thunder did with Westbrook on the triple-double run,
right?
Where they were just setting them up.
Right, we need him to average a triple-double, so Steven Adams is blocking out 2 dudes, so Westbrook can run in and get the rebound.
I call that Fisher-Price basketball. You might as well roll out the little plastic hoop.
That's exactly what it looked like. So, shout out to Bam. I will say that, regardless, he had 30 in the first quarter. He had 60 through 3 quarters. So you can't take that away from him. If he would have stopped at like 65, I feel like we would have given him his flowers. He's never scored more than 40 points in a game. He's not a shooter by any stretch of the imagination. So he did something that is genuinely legendary.
Do you think if you were on the court as you are right now, but you had an entire team of NBA players basically being an offensive line for you, then you run through, you think you could score 80?
Hell no. I might be able to get 10.
No.
Well, I would just have to force them to foul me, but I'm not as athletic there, so they probably just block my shit or steal the ball from me.
Yeah.
But that's basically what it looked like. It's just that Bam 6'10", 250 pounds. You've never seen a grown man like that running full force just to the rim, and they just look like a G League team. They didn't know what to do with them.
Dude, I feel like that's how I feel when I watch somebody like Wes Huff go on like Stephen Bartlett's podcast.
Okay.
And he's just like running up numbers, like Stephen Bartlett's asking questions. Because if somebody knows just enough, and the other person doesn't know anything, that person looks like they're the smartest person in the world.
That's exactly
Wes Huff, when he goes on Joe Rogan, when he goes on, and I always just kind of laugh and chuckle because there's people out there that people think are really smart, but they actually just only ever do stuff with not dumb people, but people who are dumb in that area.
Yeah, they don't know enough context to be able to push back, and so they can say a lot of words. It sounds articulate, it sounds intelligent, but yeah, so to that point, right? I looked at the video. So Wes Huff went on Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO.
And if you don't know who Wes Huff, tell him who Wes Huff is.
So Wes Huff is this generation's William Lane Craig. If you don't know who William Lane Craig is, he's like
he was a generation's Ravi Zacharias.
Oh, I
and
hope
if you don't
not.
know who Ravi Zacharias is,
don't look him up.
Hey, this is Colton from Ask the Next Question. Thank you so much for watching our podcast and checking in with us. Don't forget, if you like it, to give a little like, ring that bell so that you know when we drop a new video. Leave a comment and let us know what you think about what we should talk about in the next episode. And if you think we're getting anything really wrong, argue with us. We love that in the comments. Get that algorithm really going. But we appreciate you guys. Let's get back to the content.
So basically, William Lane Craig or Wes Huff, they're what we call apologists, right?
Yeah.
So they have different maybe degrees or different fields in which they're maybe is maybe their specialty. Like William Lane Craig was a philosopher. I think Wes Huff is a New Testament scholar. Yeah. But his shtick is sort of going on different programs or podcasts. William Lane Craig used to do debates, and they basically try to persuade people who are non-believers to become Christians. So they do what's called Christian apologetics. And so Wes Huff he's been on a media run for a while. He's written a couple books. He's gone on Joe Rogan, like you mentioned. And so he went on Diary CEO and he did his shtick, which is basically trying to convince Stephen Bartlett, who is I guess he said he's an agnostic, he's an atheist, to convince him and through him convince his audience to become Christians, and not just any Christian, because he's not necessarily representing the broad spectrum of Christian theology. He's trying to get them to become a specific type of Christian, which, I think is more evangelical.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. As far as apologists go in general, I think it's kind of like the jester of the sciences. I've heard somebody say before that theology is the queen of the sciences. If that's true, which it's not, then apologists they represent the jester of the sciences. So like the whole idea, I pulled up this quote from Hauerwas. It's not a quote from Hauerwas, but basically he said, he said, if you can be argued into faith, or if you need to defend God, then you're worshiping an idol. Like that, like in terms of the whole work of being an apologist. It's always crazy because they can say anything too. When they're talking to an audience, like a broad audience, everything you say is going to sound authoritative. You know what I mean?
If you're persuasive, if you're articulate, if you have some level of study behind you, then yes.
Yeah. But he I don't know if you remember, he actually got into it with Dan McClellan.
Who did?
Wes Huff did.
I don't think I saw that.
And then after like two video responses from Dan McClellan, Wes Huff posted a video. He was like, I don't have time for this.
Oh, that's how you know you lost.
Yeah, I need to be, okay. I'm a dad. I got to spend time with my kids.
Oh, no, you just ain't want to smoke with Daddy Dan.
Yeah.
Clearly. Yeah. So I was looking at the comment section of the video with Stephen Bartlett, and it was only evangelical Christians saying, yes, this is historic. I can't believe it. I'm praying. Ruslan was in the comments. We're praying for you, Steve, and we hope you see the light.
Bro, that's what they always do. They always want to claim some celebrity as like, we're going to get them.
Do you have, it's almost like there's this, and I remember this because I was there, right? It reminds me of the Christian rap to secular rap, the way you would see like a Lecrae if he got on 106 and Park, or if he got on like the BET Hip Hop Awards. It's like all the Christian kids would be like, we won something because the world has acknowledged our presence, as if our society and culture isn't shaped by Christianity.
Yes. They did that with Kendrick when Kendrick name dropped Lecrae in that song last year.
I wonder what Lecrae would do.
Yeah, I wonder what Lecrae would do.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, like everyone's like, oh, he's going to get Kendrick. You know what I mean? It's like, y'all, Kendrick's been a Christian since day one.
Lecrae and Kendrick go back. I remember when Kendrick first came out and Lecrae was talking about how they had a relationship. So it's not like this is something that's
they've been
new.
Yeah, they've been hooking up for a long time. Well, not hooking up. I don't know.
Don't
Did
say
I
that.
just break some news?
Pause.
Yeah. Okay. So
can you pause?
No. Yeah, bro, you're not supposed to be saying that no more.
It's deep, man. We got to exercise that demon out of me.
Get that homophobia out your body.
We got to get it out, man. Like Kevin on stage was saying in his conversation with Van Lathan on Higher Learning.
Are we going to talk about that?
We can talk about it.
Okay, well, let's go back to the West Huff, because you had something.
There's a quote that he had after I think the podcast appearance that he posted on Twitter. I don't follow him, but you know how Twitter is now. You don't have to follow somebody to see what they say. So he posted this yesterday. So this is after his interview went viral. So he's talking about liberal Christianity. He says, the term theological liberalism is thrown around a lot. When push comes to shove, though, it boils down to Richard Niebuhr's summation of what theological liberalism truly is. Quote, a God without wrath brought men without sin into a kingdom without judgment through the ministrations of a Christ without a cross. And
man, get the fuck out of here, dude. You sound like a bitch, Wes Huff.
His summary of that quote is basically that liberal/progressive Christianity is more than that, but is no less than that. And he says basically these words ring true just as much as they did 89 years ago.
Okay, yeah, he's definitely right. Terms like theological liberalism get thrown around a lot, and that's exactly what he's doing. Yeah, because he's conflating a whole bunch of stuff here. Liberal/progressive Christianity. Those are not the same thing. You can't say liberal/progressive Christianity. Liberal theology is about an orientation towards, metaphysics, right? Mm-hmm. Like you look back at like the work of like Rudolf Bultmann, like that whole era of like the Jesus Seminar scholars. And what they're basically doing is Christian theology, but demythologizing it. Like they don't necessarily believe Jesus rose from the dead.
Sure.
Being a progressive Christian might not entail that at all. You might believe he rose from the grave on the third day, did all the miracles and all that. In fact, I would say most progressive Christians probably do believe all that, but they're politically progressive, right? And so it's kind of silly.
Yeah, it's frustrating to me because I remember being in circles where this was a normal way of viewing liberal Christianity. to me, it's almost as if you're trying to explain something away so you don't have to actually engage with the arguments. So he's using terms like a Christ without a kingdom without judgment. What does judgment mean? What does the kingdom mean? Like these are questions that if you're asking the next question, you would interrogate a little bit more.
That's a good point, Josh. So what does that mean? What is judgment? Well, they assume judgment must be a negative thing, but you ever heard a judge say innocent?
Right.
You know what I mean? You never heard somebody get off in court? Right. And that's the whole point, right? It's like, I remember in class, Dr. Chris Green in our, was it systematic theology or something? He was asking us, what is the difference between justice and mercy? And people giving all these different things. The point he was trying to make is if you think Christianly, God's justice is God's mercy. He's not split on things, right? Like, so the judgment of God is like the declaration of your innocence because he paid for your sins.
Yes.
So, no, in fact, I would say what conservative Christianity is a God with one-sided judgment. You know what I mean? Where, one-sided judgment for almost everybody, you know?
Yeah, it's frustrating. So if we walk through some of these terms, so a Christ without a cross, the interesting thing about that is that the cross to them means one specific thing. It means penal substitutionary atonement.
That's right.
Which is a very specific way of viewing what Jesus did.
Yes.
There's other ways of viewing that still have a very, and we've talked about it in past episodes.
Yeah.
Still revere the cross, still think it has extreme importance and centrality even, but we just don't see it in that way. So a liberal Christian can still believe in what these terms, in the significance of these terms, but may have slightly different definitions.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Or mega different.
Or extremely different, right? So that's the thing that a lot of times people like Wes Huff and the Apologists do is they conflate terms with the meaning behind them, and then they confuse they don't even confuse, they just mask for the people that are evangelicals to just say, hey, you can dismiss liberal theology because they don't care about the cross. They don't care about the kingdom. They don't care about judgment. So you don't have to listen to what they say. They're dangerous. They're outside of the faith. And so when you have that sort of that framework, like I did at the time, it keeps you locked in from even engaging with some of these people if you can label them as these are outsiders that don't believe like we do.
That's a good point. Yeah. You just made me think of so many things. I want to come back to, for anybody that's watching that's like, what is penal substitutionary atonement? That sounds like a sex thing. But before we go there, I also think like, he would probably loop in leftists there too, like liberal Christianity, progressive Christianity, leftist Christianity. That's another thing. Like you could be a progressive Christian and not be a leftist. Like you could be a Christian who is like pro-gay marriage or whatever, but still be sold out to neoliberal capitalism. Yeah. You know what I mean? You could be a leftist Christian that's not progressive. You know what I mean? Like you could be economically leftist and not really have space for people of color or for queer people in your
categories are not the same.
No, and they just want to collapse everything into this really small thing. And we kind of stick our foot in our own mouth, right? Because we give them opportunities to do that. There's the term deconstruction.
Yes.
People get so mad at me, right? Because that's a big term. You reference the Kev, what's it? Kev on stage, going on to Van Lathan's podcast, Higher Learning. And what's his sister's name? I don't want to leave her out.
Rachel Lindsay.
Rachel Lindsay. And going on to their podcast, and he's talking about Christian Smith, who is, I won't say a friend. We're not like close, but we're acquaintances, and we interact positively with each other. And I love everything he says and does. But he uses the term deconstruction. But what's his name? Kev on stage, the comedian, referred to him as a theologian and deconstructionist. What the hell is a deconstructionist? I think that this term deconstruction, help me understand, Josh, how it's valuable. Like help me understand, because what they're saying, what people are saying when they say doing deconstruction is just doing theology. It's just doing better theology. Yeah. But when you give it this like really directionally focused thing, I'm deconstructing something, then you make it feel like it's about a specific thing going in one direction. Yes. And at least that's how it sounds to the detractors. Yeah. I know No Nonsense Spirituality, Britt Hartley got onto me for that because she was like, how can, and I love her, everything she does, but she was like, how can you say that like deconstruction is just tearing things down? And I'm like, maybe I'm the dumb one here. I know it's definitely not her, but like, I don't understand how it means anything other. That sounds like the definition of the word. To deconstruct something is just to take something apart. Yes. When in reality, there's nothing anybody doing deconstruction is saying that hadn't already been said by people just doing theology. Right.
Right.
And so I think you just give people like this, you give right-wing evangelicals another term to dismiss you by. Yeah. Like you said, if they can attach like these ideas to you, oh, they just don't believe in judgment, or they just don't believe in this, then you can turn a whole swath of people who might be open to a message you have away before they even get to hear you, because they're going, oh, they're just doing deconstruction. You know, that's just evangelical deconstruction shit.
Yeah, it's this whole conversation, and the more I reflect on my time in these spaces, makes me continue to consider a lot of these spaces cults. Because what does a cult do? It gives you thought-terminating cliches deconstruction, liberal, these things that stop you from engaging in this line of thinking that may lead you outside of the group. So when I was in Christianity and deconstructing, right, what was I doing? I was reading different perspectives that were outside of my own. I wasn't reading a deconstructionist. I'm just reading a theologian that was outside of the tradition that I had grown up on.
Exactly.
I'm reading liberation theology in a way that I hadn't before. I'm learning about different views of the atonement. I'm learning about different views of hell. This is called deconstruction. This is just learning. Like you said, I think one of the first conversations we had, you're like, I don't like deconstruction, because really all we did was just learn some shit that we didn't know before.
Yeah. Like, what is deconstruction? Learning new shit and changing your mind about the old shit. Like, it's funny because people will throw that term at me, like, oh, you're just a liberal deconstruction. I'm like, first of all, don't ever call me a liberal.
The slander.
Don't ever slanderize me and call me a liberal. But, so, sorry, I'm going to get into trouble. I forget, because there's people out there that don't know what I mean by that, and that might click away.
Just go back and watch episodes 1, 2, and 3. We went very hard on the liberal versus leftist distinction.
We did.
Yeah.
So, they want to throw that at me, and I'm like, dude, I based my argument in Aquinas. Dude, I based my argument in David Bentley Hart, an Eastern Orthodox theologian. Dude, I based my argument in Karl Rahner. Like, I'll do a video about how Christians should be able to believe that even non-Christians can be saved. Oh, that's a new deconstruction thing. No, that's like Karl Rahner, one of the most revered Catholic theologians of the 20th century, with his idea of the anonymous Christian. It's like, this stuff is out there. You don't have to think you're doing something new. You still be connected. I'm an atheist, and I still think of myself as somebody connected to the Christian tradition, because that's the community that bore me, the language that I speak, and so on. So, I don't know. I think we just we do that. But tell them a little bit about what penal substitutionary atonement is.
I think you would do a better job of explaining it than me, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like a strap-on. No, I'm just playing.
Maybe I shouldn't let you explain
it. Bro, okay. Real quick, that's just this idea that is like the dominant view of salvation in Christianity. Like, if you think you could articulate, even if you're not a Christian, what Christians believe about salvation or the gospel message, that's like the default American understanding. And it's this simple idea that humans fell into sin. We fell, and now we're dead in our sins. And the only way we could be saved is for God to send his son down and murder him, so that his wrath that he has on us, God is so angry with us. He has so much wrath against us because he despises sin, and we are bathed in sin. And so he kills his son as the sacrifice in our place. Jesus takes on the wrath of God for us. But the crazy thing is that that's a relatively new invention in the world of theology. That's not something that ever existed. There are many other models of what we would call like models of redemption or models of salvation in Christian theology that are way older than that predate that are way more beautiful than that make way more sense.
Yeah.
It's crazy though to think, isn't that a monster God?
That's what I think it is. But you have people that brand themselves in the early 2010s, like Mark Driscoll. They would describe what you just said as the gospel trademark.
Yeah.
And then they would create organizations like the Gospel Coalition. It's not the Gospel Coalition in my mind. It's the white American Evangelical Calvinist Coalition.
No, come on. They got like 1 or 2 black people they throw in there.
Are they black? Are they really black though? I can think of one, the Bidi Anyabwile. I remember him, and they cast him out because he started talking about racial politics. They say, "Oh no, we can't have you in this."
I know, dude. That's where I pulled that quote. That W.E. Du Bois quote was actually from him, from the Gospel Coalition website.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
No, they don't rock. A lot of those dudes don't rock with them anymore because of his engagement with racial politics and refusing to be a Republican. So.
I did just actually, it's funny you bring this up. I did just see something, and I think it was the Gospel Coalition where they like put a new board in place, and it's like all white. It's like 11 white dudes.
It's so funny, man. We go through cycles, and I feel like the organization that I used to work for, Crew, I'm going to say their name. I don't care anymore. we went through a similar phase. I feel like in the past like 5 years.
That used to be Campus Crusade for Christ.
Campus Crusade for Christ. Work with Impact Movement as well. Maybe we'll have the former president on here at some point.
Oh, snap.
Talk about it. But there was like this move for racial reconciliation that happened like 10 years ago within the church. It's not a new thing necessarily, but it became in vogue.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of these conversations that happened around how can we come together and be multi-ethnic, diverse, champion voices from other walks.
COVID and Black Lives Matter killed that shit.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. And 2020 happened. People said, oh, Trump. Well, first Trump happened. Then Black Lives Matter happened.
Yeah.
And then the divide happened again. And so now you see these spaces that we're trying to maybe accommodate some more diverse voices. They doubled down on
they went hard right.
white evangelicalism, and we are not allowing nobody that thinks anything that's not Republican, Calvinist. If you even say anything that smells woke, you out.
Yeah.
They calling John Piper woke these days.
Yeah, John Piper is woke these days. Bro, they had me John Piper maxing out here. Like it was 2010. Talk about Lecrae and the the Christian hip hop to John Piper pipeline.
Yeah, John Piper, if you don't know, was one of the most prominent white pastors in the late 2000s, early 2010s.
Yeah.
Lecrae Moore, some other Christian hip hop artists, they were influenced by theologians and pastors like him, so they would name drop him in some of their music. And then you have kids like myself and Colton who are listening to this music who probably would have never, I mean, because my church wasn't preaching no John Piper doctrine. I would have never been exposed to that. No. But because we're listening to the music, we're like, oh, who is this guy? So the internet's around, so we're like, oh, let me Google him or let me pick up a book. You know, they have their CDs back when CDs were in vogue.
Yeah.
They'd be at the Christian bookstore. So you got the Christian Piper books, you got the Christian music. So it started to kind of put you.
They were even putting Piper on their tracks. Like
he would be speaking on some of the interludes and stuff. So
dude, I love John Piper for a little bit there, and then like the deeper I got into John Piper, he just starts saying the craziest shit, and I'd be like, nah, you can't say that. Like, I remember one time he was talking about, he's like, because, a Calvinist like John Piper believes that everything that happens is God's will for the glory of God. And he's like giving an example. He's like, if I'm driving in my car and I get into an accident and my little daughter, my 2-year-old girl goes flying out of the front windshield and I'm kneeling on the pavement, holding her dead, bloody, lifeless body in my hands, I will look up to the heavens and say, bless you, Lord. I glorify your name. I'm like, yo, something is wrong with this dude.
You're not exagererating. That's literally
no. He really did say that in a sermon. He talked about how when the 5 Joplins hit in tornado, the 5 Joplins hit in tornado. Yo, I'm tired. When he said when the 5 tornadoes hit in Joplin, there's a big thing that happened. He called them the 5 fingers of God, wreaking judgment on America for the sin of homosexuality.
Now that's nuts.
Bro, in Joplin, Missouri, that's not the place. Why are he punishing them? Why he ain't send them to California?
Yeah, that's the end of John Piper, bro. We can't. I appreciate his consistency, but his consistency took him to some weird places, man.
And so now the Christian right has gone so far. And that guy also, by the way, believes he's a complementarian, which means they believe women can't preach and stuff.
Yeah.
So far that he's like, women can't be cops.
I remember that too.
Because they might have to tell a man
have
what to
authority
do.
Over man.
Bro, I watched these dudes have a legitimate debate. They're like, can a woman be a city planner? Because what if she has to decide where a stop sign goes and the men have to stop? Bro, but
oh my God.
The Christian right has gone so far that they are freaking out now and saying John Piper is woke.
Because he didn't say anything. He quoted a passage from the New Testament, from Jesus. Welcome.
I think it was the Old Testament.
The Old Testament, okay. Yeah. Basically, they interpreted him as being woke because he was quoting a verse talking about how the Israelites need to welcome the foreigner.
I think it was Leviticus. Like, imagine being called woke because you quoted Leviticus.
My God. I mean, we've lost our minds, America.
But
America Christians, you've lost your minds.
Yeah, lost the plot completely. Yeah. But they were saying he was like woke because he, like you said, he just quoted a verse saying you got to be welcoming to foreigners.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No commentary.
No commentary.
Just the verse.
And it goes, oh, no, John Piper is woke. Sean Foyt is like another right-wing nut job that I have a lot of mutual friends with because he graduated the year that I got to the same university as me, sadly. But what's kind of funny, though, is John Piper actually isn't conservative or liberal. It's even though almost all of his opinions line up with conservatives, but he doesn't get there through the way most people do. Like most conservative Christians in America today are starting with their politics and then quote mining verses from the Bible, often out of context, not always, right? Because the Bible is not a perfect document written by perfect people, right? There's a lot of bigotry up in there for real, but and then trying to find verses that just support what they think. Whereas John Piper really does start with the text, and when he finds things that are bigoted and crazy,
tries to be consistent.
He does that. But he also was like when Trayvon Martin was killed. I'm pretty sure he was wearing a hoodie to preach on Sunday.
No, he did.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
We need to find that clip.
He was one of the first pastors, white pastors out there saying George Zimmerman is a murderer, and if he doesn't, he can either confess his sins and they'll hang on the cross with Christ, or he's going to burn in hell for eternity for the sin of murdering Trayvon Martin.
God damn,
yeah,
Piper.
He stood on business with that.
Okay.
You know what I mean? He does that from time to time. Like he's anti-gun. Like he's not pro-Second Amendment. Okay. Yeah, because he's like, Christians can't kill people to defend themselves. That's like clearly against the thing. What else? He goes, he's against Christian nationalism.
Okay, shout out.
Because he's like, you're putting an idol, the idol of America. You can't do that. You're a part of a new nation. Your allegiance isn't to America. It's to Christianity. He refused to vote for Trump in 2016 and 2020.
I remember 2016. He was one of the few in those spaces that was saying, I'm not voting for Trump.
He was calling people out. He's like, how can you say you're not going to vote for Biden because homosexuality is immoral? Now, he thought homosexuality is immoral too.
Yeah.
But he goes, when Trump is full of all of this avarice and greed that is polluting our nation and corrupting the soul of everybody in it.
Yeah.
It's like, dang, you know what? He's just kind of consistent. The problem is he just has a bad hermeneutic, which is the way that you read the Bible. Mm-hmm. He doesn't understand what the Bible is well enough to really read it, which is honestly the problem with most Christians, right? Because the ones who are just applying Bible verses to get there, they're doing the same thing. You know?
Yeah. So this makes me think about this idea from Scripture that has been coming back to my mind recently as I've been observing what America has been doing overseas. It's the idea of a imprecatory prayer. And I remember when I was a kid, I was reading the Psalms, and I can't remember exactly which Psalm it is. Maybe I'll look it up later. But David was talking about how he wanted his enemies to have their children smashed.
Yeah.
And crazy. As a kid, I was like, wait a minute.
Crazy.
How is this in the Bible? But then, then I started doing some, Googling. I'm like, oh, there's this thing called a imprecatory prayer where you are praying against your enemies because they're doing something that is so evil. And then I thought about, I think we may have mentioned this a few episodes ago about Jeremiah Wright, Obama's old pastor.
Oh yeah, God bless him.
Talking about how God needs to goddamn America if she does A, B, C, and D.
Yeah, that got Obama into a lot of trouble.
It did. Yeah. Now, if that came around today, I think we would have a lot more people celebrating that message because we're seeing America do things that are abjectly horrific.
Yeah.
And are doing it without shame, without propaganda, without any sort of justification, not even trying to trick us.
Yeah.
And so an example that we can talk about here is, unfortunately, we've been at war with Iran for a little over a week now, almost 2 weeks. Iran.
Yeah, you sound like an idiot when you say it like that.
I sound like
I don't even know actually.
I sound like JD Vance. He would say Iran. It's like he refuses to say it any other way. Iran.
Bro, he makes me irate.
Yeah, right. So we've been at war with Iran. And so what the New York Times has come out with, because there's been a controversy basically about what happened in the first day of the fighting. There was
these fucking guys, these
bombs
are ghouls,
that dropped on a school.
Oh,
and
my God.
So initially, Israel said it was Iran that did the bombing.
Yeah. Now, of course they say that. They always say that.
And then there was an investigation that America said we were going to do into the situation. It turned out there was a Tomahawk bomb weapon that only we have that was shown to have done
us and our allies.
Us and our allies.
Yeah.
And then so Trump gets on and says basically, oh, well, we don't really know what's happened. It's going to go to investigation. Another time he says it was Iran. Pete Hegseth said we're looking into it. But the New York Times just came out, I think yesterday, and said that an investigation has been done and has shown that America was the one who dropped this bomb on this school. And it was what was called a double tap incident.
Yeah, two bombs. Boom.
Which is ridiculous that this is even a thing. They drop a bomb, people go rush in, try to take survivors out.
Yeah.
Then they drop another bomb and kill even more people.
Right.
So Donald Trump was asked today about his former statement saying that this wasn't us, now that an investigation has been done. And this is what he said today.
A new report says that the military investigation has found that the United States struck the school in Iran. As Commander-in-Chief, do you take responsibility for that?
That is what?
As Commander-in-Chief, do you...
For what?
For the strike on the school in Iran. A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about it.
I don't know about it. Man. Goddamn America.
Yeah. That whole sermon is a banger all the way through.
I need to go back and watch it.
Yeah. Goddamn America.
He preached that.
Yeah.
So this also made me think, I saw a video that kind of encapsulated my emotions after I saw that. It's from a former Democratic strategist, so not necessarily the best person in the world to be making this message.
Oh, James.
But it is hilarious.
All right, let me see
so let's play it.
And I speak for a lot of fucking people. You hear me, you fat asshole? This is what we believe. You're right. I got Trump derangement syndrome. I hate the motherfucker. And you know what? I don't want to get rid of it. I don't want to get better.
Yeah.
I want to get worse. I want to hate him more. I pray to God in heaven, God reign the righteous reign of Trump derangement syndrome.
Yes.
Pray for me, Lord.
Yes,
I'm your
Lord.
vessel on this earth. Pray
That's
for the people that listen to this. We
That
want
is an
more.
imprecatory
We want to
prayer.
hate the son of a bitch so much that we can't see straight. And oh my God, James, you can't give him credit for getting rid of the penny?
Hell no.
Let me tell it to you straight. Oh, you go fucking faint. It's like saying Mussolini made the trains run on time.
Yo.
So I'm supposed to be here. This guy's been convicted of 34 felonies. Is it by anybody's estimation? Is compliant to Putin and dictators. He's invading people with authorization. He's got the most incompetent fucking buffoons. So I'm supposed to give him credit for firing Christy Nome when he actually hired Christy Nome.
Yeah.
Oh, and he hired Pam Bondi. What's this tin horn drugstore cowboy we got for Secretary of War?
Right.
This asshole? Don't even get me started. What about an illustrious labor secretary? I can't forget toilet seat Bobby Kennedy. I mean, you had somebody in your cabinet that snorted cocaine off of a fucking toilet seat, and Dan Abrams is telling me I got Trump deranged syndrome. I don't just have it, man. I want it. I don't want to get better.
That's so
I want
good.
to get worse. I want to invoke the name of Providence, the name of the Almighty, He who rules the world, the King of all of us, the King of Kings.
Preach.
I want His blessing. I want to have a vision tonight when I'm sleeping, and I want the Lord to appear to me and say, James, you are my humble servant. You are executing thy will on this earth. And I want you to tell all the friends and all the people that listen to your YouTube or whatever the fuck we got here. I want to pray. I'm going to help.
Yo.
Oh my God.
Gold, right? Now, obviously, he's a demon and a ghoul too.
Yeah.
You know, because it's crazy because he would be out here just running whatever defense he needed to do for whatever Democrat was bombing Iran.
Unfortunately.
Right, because you can go back like Hillary's last running for president. She was like, "We will bomb Iran, like we will do." This is just a goal of U.S. foreign policy, right? Like this is a strategy. Now I think that Trump is probably very bad at executing that strategy, right? Like they, but anyways, that's an imprecatory prayer.
That's an imprecatory prayer if I ever heard one, bro. He said the Lord needs to anoint me to have it. I thought he was going to say the Lord needs to anoint me to execute him.
Yeah,
that's what I thought he was about to say.
Pause. That's a different kind of pause.
Right.
No, but dude, you know what this makes me think of too is it's crazy because honestly, right? People I think wonder sometimes like, why do I give all the smoke to the Democrats or you know what I mean? It's like, what? I'm not going to critique Hitler. And talk about like what he needs to do to get better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's gone.
He is who he is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I have Trump derangement syndrome too. Yeah. And at this point, if you don't have Trump derangement syndrome,
there's something wrong with you.
Then you are broken beyond the capacity to be put back together.
You're in a cult.
You are in a cult.
Yeah.
And you know, it was a big question, bro, about in the beginning, like back in 2016, because it seemed like, okay, evangelicals will never support Trump, right? Because he's the embodiment of everything the moral majority was opposed to. You know what I mean? He's a billionaire playboy out here with porn stars, doing all this stuff. Like everything that you would think he's not supposed to do. He's vulgar, he's coarse. All the reasons that John Piper, who's actually consistent, would still, you know, reject Trump. And they go, well, how could we get all these people to do it? Well, you know, I'm just going to be honest, bro. You know why they don't care? Like, I really thought, when the grab him by the pussy clip came out, I remember thinking like, oh, like all these pastors, it's over for him. It's over for him. And they still supported him. And people have come up with very generous, in my opinion, generous explanations for why that is. Like they're willing to look past this. I don't think they're willing to look past anything. I think they don't care. And I'll give you a great example. Greg Laurie is the pastor of Harvest Christian Fellowship, which is one of the biggest church networks in America. It's based out of Riverside. And he, mega church pastor, churches all around the country, all around the world. And, he just posted last week, 6 days ago, he was at the White House in the Oval Office praying for President Trump. When Erica Kirk kicked off her Make Heaven Crowded Again tour, which, her husband has helped her out with that in advance. No, I'm just playing. He didn't do that.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, he didn't. I'm a universalist theologically, so...
I guess you got to bite that bullet.
Yeah, he's got some time. He's got a few thousand years of purgatory to burn through before he's really probably ready. But anyways... that's the kind of people we're talking about. Now, so Greg Laurie, he's hosting Erica Kirk for that. He's at the White House praying for Trump. He is the exact kind of evangelical that everybody was confused about at first and has made reasons. But it turns out a lawsuit was filed in federal court last week, alleging from 22 victims, alleging that they were children in a children's home, like an orphanage in Romania that was run by Greg Laurie's church. And they had a pastor there, Paul Havsgaard there, who was essaying these little children. They opened it in 1998. By 1999, 1 year in, there are enough reports of it from not only the children, but from other staff, other pastors that were around, other people that were involved, other adults, that it gets back to, this is all alleged in the lawsuit.
In 1 year.
In 1 year, it gets back to Greg Laurie and the church leadership at Harvest here in the States. And you know what they do? Nothing. Several more years go by, 2004. The reports have never stopped. Every year they're getting more and more reports that the pastor they have there is doing this. Greg Laurie doesn't do nothing. In 2004, they send a delegation of missionaries to go investigate. And they do an in-person investigation. And you know what they find? The SA is happening. He's abusing these children. They deliver a report back to Greg Laurie and the rest of the leadership of Harvest Christian Fellowship. And it says they give concrete, it alleges that they give concrete evidence and proof that it's happening. And their recommendation is you got to get this guy out of there. Does Greg Laurie get him out of there? No. 4 more years go by. They're paying this dude $17,000 a year to molest children.
A year or a month?
A month. Sorry.
$17,000 a month to do what?
To molest children. Basically,
damn,
right? Because to run the ministry, to be the senior pastor of the church there, and to run the children's homes. But in reality, what's he doing? They're getting these reports from their people that they sent there to do the investigation. For 4 more years, they pay this dude $17,000 a month. Now, allegedly, right? If you ask me what that sounds like funding a child sex trafficking ring.
And they don't care.
They don't care, bro. In 2008, they closed down the homes. And what do? They give him a Paul, the dude doing the abusing, they give him a $200,000 bonus.
$200K severance?
A $200K severance for closing it down. And Google continue to employ him in ministries related to Harvest.
Oh, they didn't even get rid of him?
No, they continue to employ. He was still involved in ministries with Harvest. And so just this year, last week, I think, or earlier this month, a federal lawsuit comes out. Now, I want to say, the courage from these 22 victims to come forward and put their name on a lawsuit. Greg Laurie is a public figure. He's out here praying at the White House. He's out here being involved, being a mega voice that speaks into influencing people in politics and theology and religion. And so I think that makes this a public issue. And, I know people that go to that church, people who are big donors that go to that church. I went there and met them not a couple of years ago. Here's the deal. How could an evangelical pastor like Greg Laurie look past the moral depravity of somebody like Donald Trump? Well, how could he look past and fund the moral depravity of his own pastor? They do not care. They do not care. They're demons, bro. Demoniacs all.
I think the thing that I'm struck by with this story and the story with the support of Trump in general is that whenever these scandals come out, even when they're exposed, there's a strong segment of the population that has a reaction of grief and sadness and not anger.
Yes.
You should be pissed the fuck off
You should
that
be
Ravi
pissed off.
Zacharias spent decades traveling the world getting inappropriate massages and abusing women. You should be pissed off at this stuff when it comes out. But instead, it's someone has fallen. They've fallen. It's sad. We hope he's restored. It's centered around the men who have hurt and harmed people instead of being enraged that you have
100%.
perpetrated and molested or whatever they've done to victims. It's not a victim-centered response.
Yes.
And so anger isn't something that lives in the hearts of these people unless you're thinking about something like immigration or like Mark Driscoll, you're talking about socialism or some other things. You have a lot of smoke for a political ideology that you don't like. But when there's people in your own midst that will abuse others, the response is, I'm sad and I hope they're restored. No, you should be pissed off.
Bro, that's why it's so obvious to somebody who has a victimizer mentality. That's why when these people get in trouble for doing shit, they run to the church. They become a Christian, right? You got Russell Brand, right? The moment he got these allegations coming out,
rebrand
it's,
as a Christian.
I'm speaking in tongues, I'm out here getting baptized. He's rebranded as a Christian. Why? Because it's a safe place for victimizers. You know what I mean? Shia LaBeouf, right? Allegations start coming out with him. All of a sudden, he's Mr. Catholic.
Yeah.
It was funny. He said, Martin Luther was going to hell. That was pretty funny. But you know what I mean? Like they automatically know, all they have to do is become a Christian. Because then guess what happens? That's how they frame it as like a whole gospel thing. Because now if you try to hold something against these people, you're not holding against that man. Now you're holding it against the gospel.
Yes. Jesus said you're white as snow. You're washed clean. So we don't have to deal with whatever you've done in your past. It can be whitewashed away. When at the end of the day, first of all, some of these people need to be going to jail.
Yeah.
We don't need to be just talking about church litigation
they need to be
and
in jail.
being restored from ministry. But a lot of these churches have policies that you have to resolve things in-house.
Yeah.
You have to have litigation or conversations with the pastor. They almost construct their own system in order to insulate some of these people. And so when you come in and they tell you that they've done something heinous, instead of saying you need to go to the police, which is what every other institution should be forced to do, they're like, we can have a conversation in-house. We can try to reconcile. You can be put on leave. You can be put down. And we're not going to tell the outside world because this Christ is the one that's reconciling us. Your sins are washed away and clean. Bro. It's whitewashing shit when these niggas need to be in jail.
Yeah.
Like if you are abusing people, I don't care what institution you're in, just like the Catholic Church for decades. And it's a toxic abuse of the gospel, of this penal substitution that it's a transaction. So if you come to the church, we can take your credit and wash it away. You have nothing left on your account, so we don't have to deal with whatever you've done anymore. Even though there's people who have been hurt and in the wake, what do we do with them?
100%.
They're left out of the conversation. They're left out of the equation.
Yeah, totally discarded.
Yeah.
And what did Jesus say about these kind of people? Whitewashed
tombs. Yeah,
whitewashed tombs.
Yeah.
You look fresh and clean on the outside, but inside you full of dead man's bones. The whole move. I don't know how we ended up talking this much about Christian pastors that were really big in the early 2000s. But our next person to talk about is Mark Driscoll, because he's been blowing up more and more. Now, I thought we exorcised the demon of Mark Driscoll from society like a decade ago, but he's back and he's got millions of followers on Instagram again. He's getting hundreds of thousands of views. And now he's going out from just doing bad theology and kind of getting into bad politics to almost everything he says is hyper political. Yeah. So he preaches his whole sermon against socialism. And this is just a little clip. So let's see.
Christians should stay out of politics. I tell you what, Pharaoh wishes that God stayed out of his politics because God showed up and said, I'm going to crush you. I'm going to crush your economy. I'm going to destroy your army. And I'm going to liberate a few million people so they can worship me because you're not letting children live. You're killing baby boys and you're not letting believers worship. And I am a pro-life and a pro-liberty God. And if you don't allow that, I'm going to have to crush your government.
Bro, that's not even the clip that I thought I was sending.
But that I was thinking like, that is very toxic given the situation that we're in with the war in Iran.
100%.
Because that's the sort of theology Pete Hegseth would have. These people don't believe like us. We're going to free them by killing their civilians. How does that make any sense? But that's what they believe.
There's so many problems in what he just said there, right? Because it's, from thinking of America, what you call it? Not dispensationalism. Supersessionism, right? Like this idea that America kind of just takes on the role of Israel because he's talking about Pharaoh. Now, I actually saw a longer part of this clip too, where he's talking about God came and destroyed. Bro, this man is so fucking dumb. Like Mark Driscoll is such a moron. He's like, God destroyed Egypt because they were killing children and wouldn't let people have religious liberty. Y'all, what the story, what does it say God came in and did? So because they were killed in children, God came in and killed all their firstborn children.
This is literally the ideology of the Trump administration. We're going to liberate you by eliminating you.
Yes, it maps. It's the ideology of a psychopath.
Yeah.
And
man, that's a word.
This
right
idea that because God destroyed Israel's enemies, he's going to destroy America's enemies. It's bad theology all the way around, but it's also very, very dangerous to view things that way. And it totally disconnects things from the land. I don't know. It's interesting. The clip that I was wanting to show. Do you have anything to say on that?
I don't have it. But if you want to,
I can just talk about it.
Yeah, just describe it.
He's basically just like he's talking about how under socialism, their job is to make sure you don't own any land. Their job is to make sure that you lose your house. Yeah. They want you to pay taxes on your property so that you're renting forever. And he goes, the older I get, the more conservative I get because the more I read my Bible. It's like, hey, Brody, it might be time to read something in addition to the Bible.
Right.
Because you don't even know how to read that. Maybe read a book on how to read the Bible.
Yes. Well, he wrote a couple.
He did. Yeah, he did.
They weren't good.
He did, unfortunately. Bro, his book on marriage is one of the most disgusting things I've ever read.
It. Thankfully, I've heard it described.
It's disgusting.
Yeah.
But it's like this dude actually hates capitalism. Like right-wing Christians actually hate capitalism. They just are too stupid to know what anything is called. Because every time they open their mouth to describe socialism, they describe capitalism.
Yeah.
Because, look at what's the closest thing we have to a communist economy? Like, what is it? China? You know what I mean? And I there's a lot of debate on how communist are they really, yada, yada, yada. But in communist China, they got a 90% home ownership rate.
Right.
And it's closer to like 96% in rural China.
Yeah.
In America, we have a 64% home ownership rate.
And falling.
Yeah. At our peak was 2007, what led to the crisis.
And down.
Guess how high we got then? 70%. Oh, so why is it falling now? It's actually not they. He's true. They don't want you to have a home.
Yeah.
They do want you to rent forever. But the they in question are the capitalists that are buying up all the property. Yeah. And sometimes we get focused on like the big funds or the big companies that are buying up property. They actually own a relatively small percentage, like around 1%. The real people you got to look at are the people who own like 12 to 50.
Yes.
And it's totally normal in this country. You can own 50 homes and somebody else owns 0.
Yeah.
And they condition our elderly to be completely financially precarious, in a terrible position in life, and to be faithful acolytes because they go to church on Sunday and they listen to an idiot like this talk about stuff that they don't even have the first clue of what the words they're using mean.
Yeah. It's frustrating to think that this person has been resurrected from the dead, but I think he's been resurrected because he's unashamed in his ignorance and bigotry, just like the president is unashamed in his ignorance and bigotry. Just like John Piper predicted 10 years ago that Donald Trump would corrupt the culture. He would pollute the culture, his unashamed brashness.
There it is.
Exactly. And so now you have somebody who's been exorcised from the evangelical Christian community because he had no moral, no leadership, no judgment, was just a brash, boastful, arrogant son of a bitch. But now that we like that now.
Yeah.
In 2026.
That's what we want.
So he's back around. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So he's able to build an audience, and people like Jordan Peterson and Jordan Peterson's daughter will go to his church because it's cool now.
Oh, they've been going to Mark Driscoll's church?
I know a few years ago. I don't know about Jordan Peterson. I know his daughter mentioned going back to church, and she said she liked Mark Driscoll's church. She called his church out by name.
Wow.
Because he spoke the truth. He told it like it is, which is literally the same shit that
Mark
people
Driscoll
used to describe Donald Trump. Bro, he tells it like it is.
He says in his marriage book, bro, he tells this story where he's like, I was dreaming and God gave me a prophetic dream where my wife, and these people been married for like 20 years at this point. He was like, she was in high schools before we had ever met. And she went on a field trip to Europe. And in my dream, she was fooling around with her boyfriend.
No way.
And
he did not say this.
Yeah. And I don't remember if he says they had sex or they like
fooling around is enough.
Had oral sex or something. But he's like, and I woke up and I sat up in my bed and I vomited. And I woke her up in the middle of the night and I told her about my dream and I asked her if it was true. And
that is psychopath.
And she said yes. And he said something like, if I didn't, wasn't a follower of Jesus, I would divorce you right now. Yo, you need to absolutely get rid of that, man.
What's up, y'all? It's Joshua from Ask the Next Question. We appreciate you guys rocking with our content. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell. That helps us out in the algorithm. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to see in some future episodes. We'll see you next time. All right, so Joshua Das, a prominent creator here in Chicago. He's
pretty dope.
Cool dude, makes a lot of political content, a lot of good statistical analysis of what's happening, looking at polls.
He's actually he works in that
his
field.
job.
So he like really knows how to like
expert.
crunch the numbers, look at that stuff. He's like an actual technical expert.
Yep. So I've been following him for a while. I know you have as well. So he made a video reacting to Umar Johnson saying that he wasn't going to vote. And so I think we both had some thoughts. So let's play the video.
Well, if it's Umar, I'm probably not going to agree with Umar Johnson. I'm probably going to agree with Joshua Das, right?
I don't think I've almost ever agreed with Umar Johnson in the past few years, but we'll see.
Did not vote for Kamala Harris.
Yes, sir.
I did not vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Unlike many black people who believe you must vote even if you have nothing you're looking for, I'm not in that group.
I had an economics professor in college that would always talk about how to abandon emotion whenever you're in a financial or economic negotiation and how to dominate that negotiation. And he had a very interesting leveraging tactic that I never forgot. A green guy is locked in a room with an orange guy and $1 million, and the clock has 1 hour. And they tell him, look, all y'all got to do is decide on how to split up the money and we'll give it to you. But if not, you get nothing. So the green guy says to the orange guy, like, look, this is easy. Let's just split it 50-50 down the middle, $500K each. Orange guy says, nope. I'll take $600K or no deal. The green guy's like, wait, what? No, that doesn't even make any sense. They argue back and forth, and eventually the time runs out and the green guy doesn't take the deal. So he walks out with his head held high, no money, but with his head held high. He kept his morals. But what he didn't know is that the rules for the orange guy was a little different. The rules for the orange guy was if there's no deal made between you two, you get to leave with $500K. So for the orange guy, there was no reason for him to accept a deal that did not give him more than $500K. This concept is called BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, and it teaches us the most important rule in negotiations. A deal only makes sense if it's better than what you would get with no deal. Even if a deal feels unfair, if it's better than your BATNA, you take it. So what did we learn? What black people got with the no deal option was Donald Trump, which gives us a rise in black unemployment, a rise in gas prices, another war, a retrenchment of DEI, retrenchment of affirmative action. Barack Obama posted on his page as a monkey and a banning of over 500 black books. A deal only makes sense if it's better than what you get with no deal. This also teaches us something else about negotiating. The rules that you're negotiating under ain't always the rules that your opponents are negotiating under. Oh yeah, and black people are always under different rules. So when we were listening to a white leftist talk about never vote for Kamala during the election, think to yourself, were they communicating to me under the shield of their father's loft in Williamsburg and under the shield of a Democratic mayor and a Democratic governor passing progressive policies? And would the tangible consequences of this president affect them the way that it would affect me? You see, they're saying they can't vote for a candidate because they haven't fallen in love with them. But our ancestors knew something very important. We don't get the privilege or the luxury of falling in love with our political candidates because this political system don't love us. Politics ain't a love story for us. It never has been. It's a business deal, a negotiation. And we have to win each negotiation because when we lose, we don't have safety nets. Food for thought, food for thought.
Yo, when did Dr. Umar Johnson become a white liberal from Williamsburg?
Right.
A white
I don't
leftist
know how we
from
went from Dr. Umar to Williamsburg white people in the loft.
That took a turn. and because it took a turn, I think, I have to let you speak to it first because he kind of disqualified me.
So I'll start here. I think the thing that frustrates me about some of the conversation that's been happening over the past year is that there's a conflation between the idea that you are pro-black and care about the flourishing of black people and the Democratic Party. It's almost as if you didn't support Kamala Harris, you don't care about marginalized people. We've talked about this in the past.
Yeah.
And if you're a person who did not support Kamala Harris, the assumption is that you're not black. It reminds me of what Joe Biden fucking said in 2020.
Yep.
If you don't vote for me, you ain't black, which was offensive for obvious reasons.
Didn't he say that on the
He said that
Club?
which he said that to Charlamagne on the Breakfast Club, which is insane, right? Which is insane. Joe Biden, his brain, I know his brain was being turned to mush by the end of his presidency, but that could have been a sign that he was losing it a little bit before that. But that was insane. But honestly, the way that some of us treat our engagement with politics is within that same sentiment. It's just that it's not a white person saying that. We say it amongst ourselves. If you, there's this deal, right? And the two options are Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. If you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you're implicitly voting for Donald Trump, which I don't agree with necessarily. And if you don't vote for Kamala Harris, you're allowing something that is going to be worse for Black people to proliferate over the next 4 years, which, if you stop the conversation right there, is true. But the problem that I have is that the conversation shouldn't stop there. The conversation should say, what's going to happen over the next 40 years? What's happened over the past 40 years? And when he brings up the ancestors, I also have to ask the question, which ancestors are you referring to? Because I can think of some ancestors who did not think that we had to vote for the Democrats, no matter who was on the ticket. I can think of Malcolm X.
Right.
Let me read some quotes for you real quick, and then I'll let you cook. So this is from W.E.B. Du Bois in 1956. He says, why I don't vote. In 1956, I shall not go to the polls. I have not registered. I believe that democracy has so far dispersed in the United States that no two evils exist. There is but one evil party with two names, and it will be elected despite all I can say or do. Now, W.E.B. Du Bois, last time I checked, was not a white person in Williamsburg.
Now, according to Joshua, who I do like and respect, this is just a friendly point of a disagreement.
Of course.
He's just being emotional.
Let me go to Malcolm X, the ballot or the bullet. 1964. I'm not a Republican, nor a Democrat, nor an American, and got sense enough to know it. I'm one of the 22 million Black victims of the Democrats, one of the 22 million Black victims of the Republicans, and one of the 22 million Black victims of Americanism. So Malcolm X also saying, I don't care who you put in front of me. As a Black person, I am not voting for either of them. I'll read one more. This is from Kwame Ture. From his Black Power speech in 1966. Our own personal position politically is that we don't think the Democratic Party represents the needs of Black people. We know it. And I've been listening to Black Power, his book, which is in line with, the speech Black Power as well. And he talks about how Black people need to have a coalitional politic where we don't need to look to white institutions in order to have our power. We need to say, okay, we have our collective strength together, and we're going to mobilize and organize from a position of strength, not necessarily capitulating to whatever party is the quote unquote lesser of two evils. Now, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong, if my interpretation of Kwame Ture is incorrect, but what I'm seeing now is that coalitional structure and that collective community that we have as Black people is being weaponized against us.
Right.
And so now, if you don't support the Democratic Party, you're wasting the communal political power that the Black population has, because we do vote in the block. And we have, in some sense, decided to coalesce around collective action, but that collective action is being weaponized by the Democratic Party. So Joe Biden can say, if you don't vote for me, you're not Black. What I would suggest, honestly, and this is hard, right? Because in 2024, right, like, I don't think that you have, I think you can say I would vote for Kamala Harris. And I'm going to do the lesser of two evils. I think you can say that. I don't necessarily agree, but I think you can make that argument. But I don't think you should be doing what Joshua Das is doing in shutting down the voices that are more radical that would say, actually, we need to move our political collective power away from the Democratic Party, not in a reactionary way toward the Republicans, but towards someone that is more aligned with the Black radical tradition, who may be anti-capitalist, because both the Republicans and the Democrats are capitalists. And also recognizing that within the Black community, we don't all believe the same thing. And of course, we know this. And again, I'll say again, reactionaries often weaponize this line of speaking. To
reactionary means right-winger.
Thank you. Yes. Reactionary or right-wingers like Candace Owens or Thomas or some other people say, well, I'm not on the Democratic plantation. And they just use that to say, well, it's okay for me to be Republican. I'm not advocating that. I'm saying that if you want the liberation of Black people, the Democrats are not it either. And they have, and there's a line of ancestors and political activists from the past that agree with that position.
Well, they're all just emotional.
They must be, man.
Ida B. Wells, emotional.
Must be.
Fannie Lou Hamer, emotional. Amiri Baraka, emotional. I mean, that's what he just said, because he's ascribing an entire position to some fictional white leftist from Williamsburg.
Yeah.
I'm a white leftist, but I'm a white leftist from Section 8 housing in Kensington, Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who has family members, direct family members to me experiencing homelessness right now at ages they should not be experiencing it at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have so much reaction to this too in so many different ways. But you know, it's funny. We both came with Du Bois quotes,
Yep.
right? I think later from that same letter, he says, "Stop yelling about a democracy we do not have. Democracy," and this is in 1956, "democracy is dead in the United States, yet there is still nothing to replace real democracy. Drop the chains that they bind on our brains." And with all due respect, Joshua Dawson's not a bad person. He's full of a lot of good takes. I probably align with him on like 99% of stuff. But the perspective he is giving out right there is those are the chains that he's talking about here that are binding our brains. He says, drive the money changers from the seats of the cabinet and the halls of Congress. Call back some faint spirit of Jefferson and Lincoln, and when again we can hold a fair election on real issues, let us vote. And not until then. Is that impossible? Then democracy in America is impossible. Yeah. And it's not an emotional position to understand and believe that if we have to, now, like you said, I get it. I did end up voting for Kamala, right? Because, at the end of the day, like I made that decision. I don't know if I would do it again today. Maybe I would. I don't know. But I'm not going to tell somebody, right, I'm not going to wipe out an entire tradition of thought.
Yes. That's exactly right.
Yeah, and I want to get to some of the logic here about why it's not just an emotional thing. Yeah. See, I think Joshua's framework right there of using BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement, is the right framing. And if I didn't have a smarter wife than me, I wouldn't know anything about that, because when she was at law school at Northwestern, she took her negotiation class and she had to do all these different negotiations. So we come back and I would practice with her. And you're always trying to figure out what the other person's BATNA is so you could get the right negotiation. Here's the problem. He's operating in a framework where he's assuming that there's only one round of negotiations.
Exactly.
If there's one round of negotiations, the analysis he put forward just then, it works completely. But the problem is there's not one round of negotiations. Exactly. There's a bunch of rounds of negotiations. In fact, every 2 and 4 years, we have another round of negotiations. And when you do this, when you refuse to understand, when you give in to the party that has systematically moved itself further and further to the right. And if you want to learn more about how you can understand that, go pick up Thomas Frank's book, Listen Liberal, Whatever Happened to the Party of the People, as he details the party moving under Jimmy Carter and then under Bill Clinton with the Democratic Leadership Council. Literally their stated goal was to figure out how can we get corporate dollars and not only be supported by the working class and shed some of that support of the working class. By the way, that's a big part of the reason why today Bubba Redneck out in Appalachia, who used to be against the police, is wearing a thin blue line shirt. Because we totally shifted the ground out from under their feet. You know what I mean? Because it didn't used to be that way. You know what I mean? Like back in the day, when you had the Rainbow Coalition here in Chicago under Fred Hampton, it was the Young Patriots, a group of white people from Appalachia partnering up with the Young Lords and the Black Panthers. You know what I'm saying? So here's the deal. Every round of negotiations, when you give into a party who's moving systematically further and further to the right, having giving more and more to corporate America, more and more to the billionaire class, less and less to the working class, of which we are all a part.
Absolutely. Yep.
The great lie that has been told to people today is that somehow socialism and Marxism is a left white person's ideology.
An affluent white person's ideology, when in fact, I bet if we ran an analysis, how many notable Marxist socialists in American history can you even think of that are white? Yeah.
Almost none. How many that are black? Everyone that I think of. Yep. Everyone that, it's probably got to be 10 to 1, right? It's because it's a politics of liberation. What happens is they get to move further to the right. And every round of negotiations, the BATNA changes. So if you take Joshua's advice here and you go 2 years out from a primary, or however 3 years out from a primary, or how far we are, you go already conditioning people to think they got to vote for the Democrat. Here's what happens. That BATNA just gets worse. That's how we've ended up with Trump.
Yes.
That's how every iteration has gone further and further.
That's how we ended up
right-wing.
with Liz and Dick Cheney supporting Kamala Harris.
That's how you end up with Liz and Dick Cheney and behind the scenes, the Bush family supporting Kamala Harris. Right. And it'll just keep getting worse and you'll keep producing something better. So the example he gave was that guy's BATNA is, he's going to get $500K even if he doesn't do a negotiation with you. So why would he settle for anything less than $600K? Well, next time that's going to change. He's going to take more ground. So next year he'll demand $700K from you. Because next negotiation, he'll demand $700K from you because now he's going to get $600K if nothing changes.
And we'll be looking at a candidate like Donald Trump, and they'll be telling us in 20 years that we need to vote for Donald Trump Jr. because if we don't, then we're going to have Nick Fuentes.
Bro.
So don't vote for Donald Trump. He's the centrist Democrat.
If that sounds crazy to you, that's the reality that we're living.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reality that we're living.
If you have George Bush and the Cheneys supporting Kamala Harris in 2024 after 20 years ago, the Iraq War and all of the crazy corruption and what people thought at the time was a right-wing government, now supporting the Democrats. Where have we come? Where have we gone?
You listen on immigration. The Democratic platform on immigration today is so far right of Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. in their debate that it's mind-numbing.
Kamala Harris, didn't she say she wants to be the toughest on the border of any president in history?
She wants to be tough.
Like
Yeah, she says she wants to have the most lethal military in the world.
Yeah.
She wants to change nothing, she said, about Joe Biden's policies of actively funding an active genocide, arming an active genocide.
Right.
And so, at the end of the day, I'm not going to be mad at somebody because they vote for the Democrat at the last moment. But we got to do a lot more. And by the way, that work, I'm not just coming up with that idea. You can look at the work of people like Cedric Johnson, Adolph Reed Jr., right? You could look at black scholars who are tracing how this happens. How Adolph Reed Jr. said every election of his life, he's been told it's the most important election of his lifetime, and he has to vote for the Democrat no matter what.
Yeah. At some point.
Now, you should never vote for, I will judge if you vote for the Republican.
Yeah. If you've heard that being insinuated, anything we said, please, we are not supporting no damn Republicans up here at all.
No, but we have to start building political power.
That's exactly what I was going to say. There has to be some level of political power that is collective and is willing to say, in this negotiation, we are withholding our vote until the Democrats or whoever has enough political power that is actually for anti-capitalism, anti-imperialism, healthcare for all, some of the things that are just basic that most Americans want, by the way.
Right.
And if you have a movement like a Mamdani movement where someone is allowed to say the most obvious things that everyday people want, which is economic opportunity, or not even economic opportunity, security, having free buses, things like affordable city. That's what he ran on. I just want to have an affordable city. Bernie Sanders, healthcare for all, right? So these are basic things, mind you.
Yeah.
Right. Like on a global scale, this isn't even like the most radical.
But they will tell
position.
you that was New York. That couldn't happen in the rest of America. Oh, you ran a socialist in the capital of capitalism.
Right.
New York City is the capital of capitalism.
Yeah.
And he won. But if you tell people you're going to make their lives easier, I don't care. If you have been so brainwashed to believe that people will not vote for their interest if they believe it,
right.
You know why they stopped voting for Democrats? Not just because they're stupid people that want to vote against their self-interest. They saw that the Democrats were doing NAFTA, shipping all the jobs off overseas, deindustrializing America, which, by the way, America is in big trouble if it wants to run a war against Iran. Because we ain't got no factories to do the national, what's it called? There's like that act where you can turn all the factories into places that make tanks. We offshored all that to China. Yeah. We ain't making no tanks here. You think China's going to make our new tanks? They're going to make our new, they're going to do all that. They're going to manufacture it for us.
Some laser weapons and some alien technology to fight this war, because we ain't fighting it with traditional military and a ground force.
We need to lose the war though. Goddamn America.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
And on top of that, I mean, there's a whole nother perspective here of when he pivots to this fictional white leftist from Williamsburg, which I'm sure that exists.
Of course.
I've never met anybody like that.
Yeah.
I don't have those aren't my contacts. And he talks about, like, ask yourself, when they're advocating for this position, what are they shielded by? What are they protected by? Are they under the shield of their daddy's loft that they live in paying rent? Are they under, I forget all the little examples that he gives. But, another question we have to ask is, when you argue, vote blue no matter who, what shield is that person hiding behind? Are they hiding behind the shield of American imperialism? Are they hiding on this side of the divide where we probably aren't going to get bombs dropped on us?
Yes.
Are they hiding behind the shield of the country that's willing to, drop bombs on like children? Because the rules are different for everybody.
Yeah.
And he's right. The rules are different for black people in America than they are for white people in America. Even though I grew up poor, I have levels of privilege that a black person will never have.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a billionaire black person, you have a different kind of privilege than I have.
All
That's
things
a different
being equal,
conversation.
your skin is black, you're going to have it worse.
100%.
Yeah.
And even there will be scenarios in which I'm privileged above a black person who has more than me.
Yeah.
But just to the degree that that is true, being in America, an American and living in the United States, the rules are different for you than they are for in all the countries around the world that America is underdeveloping, that we're issuing sanctions against. I will not stop talking about the Lancet report of our sanctions killing over 500,000 people a year. By the way, in that time frame that they looked at, that's 38 million people, Joshua. 38 million people that the United States and our allies in the West, under our direction, have starved to death by sanctions or killed because of lack of access to medicine because of sanctions, half of which about our children.
Yeah.
And so are we hiding beneath the shield of living in the core of the empire that is destroying the world around us, saying, you know what, we're just going to vote for what is the best for us?
Yes.
We can't do that. If you do it at the end of the day and you vote for the liberal at the end of the day because it's a harm reduction, whatever, but that harm reduction argument falls apart this far in advance at least.
And if you're going to make that argument, one thing is, I hate that this is couched in falling in love. We don't have to fall in love with
Come on, who's falling in love
Nobody's
with anybody,
falling in love with anybody. We all know this.
Yeah.
But also, if that's all you do, because the majority of people that listen to Joshua Das said and then take action, their action is going to be to go to the polls and that's it.
Yes.
If you're telling people to organize, if you're telling people to do mutual aid, if you're telling people to actually primary candidates that are not leftist and try to get a leftist in there, if you're telling them to do all of those things then at the end of the day you vote for Kamala Harris, that's one thing. It's another thing to tell people to vote for Kamala Harris and don't tell them to do anything else.
Bro, that's true, because all those people we referenced earlier, W.E.B. Du Bois, Fannie Lou Hamer,
Malcolm X.
Well, not Malcolm X, but a lot of them, they did at different times vote for a Democrat.
Sure.
Fannie Lou Hamer ended up, after saying all this stuff, she ended up going back and becoming a delegate, but she knew she knew this is not for us. Yeah. They say, I hear people say for the people, with the people, for the people, and by the people, but I know it is with the few, for the few, and by the few. Yep. And so you have to agitate, you have to organize. If you end up doing a harm reduction vote at the last minute, I get it. Yeah. But no, like we have to have and our political imagination is couched.
Yes.
You know, like Mark Fisher talks about how it's easier to imagine the end of the world than the end of capitalism. And that is true. It is easier, but it's just, that's a problem with our imagination.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
We have to shake, like Du Bois said, those shackles off of our minds and free our imaginations, bro. Yeah. We have to do it, because the truth is the end of the world will not come before the end of capitalism.
No.
Capitalism will be gone, even if all of us are, and the world will keep on moving along. And so can you imagine a world? Can you imagine a world that is a future that is bright not only for you, but for children in the Sudan and in Congo and Cuba and in Venezuela and in El Salvador and in Gaza and in Iran? Or can you only imagine a future in which, well, we got to do what we got to do to help us?
Yeah, and that's why Malcolm X said, I'm not an American. Because
come on,
being an American shouldn't mean that you are an American chauvinist. And I think for most people, that's what it means. It means I'm an American and we are better than the other people. So if we drop bombs on them, I don't identify with the people enough for it to mess with my soul. For me to look at that and say, these are people just like me in a city just like mine. Can I imagine a bomb being dropped on Chicago and having everything up in smoke and trying to breathe gasoline?
Oh my
God. This is what is happening because of America.
Acid rain falling down on the city of Chicago.
I don't want to hear, well, Kamala wouldn't have done that, because guess what? She would have done something else.
Yeah.
And even
she probably would have done this. This was a foreign policy objective in America that we were moving to for years and years and years and years. Whether it was a Republican, that we systematically brought us to the point to war with Iran.
Yeah. So I'm not an American in the sense that I'm an American chauvinist. I was born here. I'm a citizen here. I recognize the privilege that I have of being an American, but I want people across the world to experience flourishing. I don't want the empire to have free reign to bomb and throttle everything so we can have a nice a comfortable apartment with a nice iPhone that's cheap. Like that's not worth it for me now that I've seen what I've seen. And even from my Christian background, like Christians, do y'all, like we talk about not being of this world as Christians, but do you really internalize what that means in the context of which we're living, right? Like to not be of this world is to think, there's people that are in other countries who are being disadvantaged because of the country that I live in.
Yes.
Am I going to be willing to sit on the couch and say, you know what? That's okay. I know it's bad, but these people aren't quite like me. I can't really do anything. There's not much I can do. It's complicated. Politics is strange. No, there's something that you can do about it. Maybe you haven't been given the language or the education, but there's an imagination, like you said, that you can have even in this life. Because a lot of Christians think, well, in the by and by, it'll be okay, right? And that's like you called in one of your TikToks, bootlicker theology.
It's bootlicker theology.
Right. But can we imagine a world, like you said, where everyone has an opportunity to live a good life and we don't have to rely on capitalist empires exploiting other parts of the world?
They've been convinced that that's not possible.
And I guess we have to be in love with a politician to hope that would happen.
Yeah, no. Listen, we need an international proletarian revolution. And if you are watching this and you're wondering, man, how do I develop that? How do I cultivate that? Just watch some YouTube clips of Fred Hampton giving speeches.
We should put some resources in the
We should. Yeah, we will. We'll put some in the description because you got to learn to live for the people, to die by the people, to breathe for the people. Yeah. Like you got to get something like that in your lungs. That our liberation is collectively bound up with each other.
Yeah.
And until we understand that and start to pursue that, bro, the whole world is fucked.
Yeah. And we're messengers. We're trying to bring the things that we've learned to you guys. We don't claim to be experts or revolutionaries or anything like that. It's just we've seen some things.
Yeah, we're just sick and tired of this shit.
We can't not talk about it.
We're fed up. We're the fed up ladies. We're the fed up dudes.
There you go. Exactly. So that's what we try to do is take the things that we've learned and understood and the things that we've seen that we don't feel like are discussed enough, right? And we enjoy discussing them with each other. And so we try to bring that to you guys. So hopefully you enjoy it. This is episode 13. Hopefully more to come, but we appreciate you guys watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, get the notification, turn that on so you can know when we drop our next episode. We drop clips. Follow us on social media. We'll put links in the description. But we appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time.